Have you ever been outside? It's horrible, I know. The sun, people, sounds, smells. The RPG Maker game, Lookoutside, builds on this feeling into a journey of unimaginable proportions of Eldritch Cosmic Horror. I once went outside. I was outside for a long time, weeks even. If you stay outside long enough, it becomes inside again, and then you're back at square one. Today, we'll look at 20 things I arbitrarily decided to talk about regarding Sam's journey to survive, and maybe even do something about the havoc that the visitor is wreaking on Earth. And with the aid of a quirky group of friends, neighbors, and astronomers dressed in cult-like dark robes, let's take an inside look at Lookoutside, but on the inside of the looking outside. Number 1. Looking outside. Sam is a short king with Bart Simpson hair. The bags around his eyes tells us that he hasn't slept in about as long as I haven't pooped. He somehow lives by himself in a spacious one-bedroom apartment without needing to split the rent with roommates. Though, as we learn later, he might be late on his rent. He must have one of those fancy well-paying jobs or be successful on OnlyFans. He also doesn't have a coffee machine, meaning that he raw dogs every day with no caffeine, proving that he is a psychopath. The game starts when he wakes up in a room bigger than anyone in the middle class would be able to afford, but an otherwise normal room with a computer, an old-fashioned calendar on the wall, the type of thing people don't use anymore, but in the past would have cute pictures of puppies or women in scandalous clothing, or maybe even firemen if that's your jam, a closet, and a plant he'll start neglecting pretty soon. A strange glow can be seen from underneath the curtains. The type of glow you see when you take LSD and then take a nap, wake up again, and have forgotten that you're still tripping. From here, Sam would start his adventure of butt-clenching cosmic horror as he learns the terror that has befallen Earth as the visitor visits for a visitation. The wall next to Sam's bed has a crack, and we can see an eye through it, an image that will repeat itself throughout the game. This is Sybil, Sam's neighbor. Sam has one of those fancy apartments that has holes in the wall so you can check up on your neighbor. Sybil tells you to take a peek outside with the enticing, unreal glow coming from the window. How could he refuse? But if you have an attention span longer than an orgasm, Sybil will correct herself and tell you not to look outside. She had gotten confused, and this sets up the central threat in the game. An extrasolar entity called the Visitor has approached Earth. Its otherworldly eldritch light has the nasty effect of twisting and transforming anybody that sees it or is exposed to its radiation. The only remaining normal humans are those that have managed to stay inside and not gaze upon the eternal beauty of the Visitor. And this sets up the circumstances that Sam will have to navigate if he wants to survive and find out what the fuck is going on in his once normal apartment building. Number 2. Flesh plants. Do not f***. I like flesh. I like plants. If you mix them, you have a yummy salad. Or a corpse stapled to a tree. Throughout the apartment building, we see one of the many nasty manifestations and results of the Visitor in the form of a flesh plant growth that will block Sam's progress at different points. Pulsating, wet, and perpetually spreading out, they are a mixture of flesh and plant life that is instinctively repulsive, unless you are into that type of thing, and who am I to judge? The flesh plants will spread out and engulf different parts of the apartment building, sometimes locking up doors or blocking off paths. Sam will have to make or find herbicide, which will always be in short supply, in order to get past them. If he does take the effort, he will generally find useful supplies the fleshy plant substances have preserved for him. So in practice, the flesh plants will function like chests that are opened with the herbicide for extra supplies. Sam will be able to find herbicide in different parts of the apartment building, but most of the time, he'll be able to craft some by mixing vinegar and Cleanorex, which are other chemicals he can find around the apartment building. Should he be mixing chemicals to make poisons in an unventilated room? Probably not. But these are desperate days, and that calls for desperate measures. We don't get a clear origin for these fleshy plant growths across the apartment, but we do get one hint. One of the astronomers mentions that their former leader, Sybil, had observed the visitor and turned to sludge. Could this plant growth be part of Sybil and what she'd become after witnessing the visitor? Number 3. The number that follows after number 2. Interacting with your neighbors. Okay, look, I've had great neighbors, wonderful neighbors. I've also had awful neighbors, like those f***ers across the street. Fortunately, they moved out. And having friends visit is wonderful, but you know what pisses me off to an unreasonable extent? Having people knock on your door. No, I'm sorry, I'm not interested, I'm not buying anything, I'm not subscribing. Subscribe to this channel though. If I need something, I have the internet. I know how to Google stuff. Please leave me alone, the sign says no soliciting. In Lookoutside, as you spend time in your apartment, cooking, crafting, or playing video games, you'll have people come by and knock on your door. Frequently, from what I've noticed, after you play a video game session. But contrary to what you might be conditioned to expect from a horror game, most of the visitors will actually be friendly and helpful. Vendors selling medical supplies, foodstuffs, armor, weapons, or video games. The occasional quest giver, and more importantly, other apartment dwellers looking to join your party. Quite the opposite from real life. Most of the time when someone knocks on your door, it will be something positive. And I didn't find myself irrationally angry at someone for trying to sell me something at my door in Lookoutside, and refusing to respond to knocking might lead to missing out on some of the most interesting characters. Some of my personal favorites is the pizza delivery guy who sells you very cheap pizza, which actually provides a disproportionate amount of healing for a low cost. Another one is the fan favorite character Helen, who at first glance appears to be inspired by Jason from Friday the 13th, but is actually a very warm character and very good in fights. There's also the creeper, the YouTuber, Gus, whose skills all revolve around getting views, which is kinda sad because who really cares about views on a YouTube video? Please like and share. So if anything, I would rather have people knock on my door in Lookoutside, a horror game where you're trying to survive monsters that are roaming your apartment, than have someone knock on my door in real life, because people make me anxious. Number 4. The Rat Baby. Most of the apartments you'll enter and Lookoutside have a theme. The taxidermy apartment, ice, fungus, teeth, the basement dweller, but one of the earliest ones is the rat apartment. The apartment will have glowing red eyes peering at you from the darkness, which we can assume are some form of rodents of unusual size. Rat enemies will hinder your early game progress here as you make your way around the apartment. During all this time, you'll hear the crying and wailing of an infant or baby. At the far end of the room, you'll find a child barrier that's locked. Opening it with a key found in the next room over will allow you to approach the source of the crying, originating from a cradle. Inspecting the crying bundle in the cradle, Sam will learn that the sound wasn't coming from a human baby, but rather a rat baby. He will find it cute, and regardless if you choose to take him with you or decide to leave him behind, he's going to hitch a ride with you in your inventory. A little later on, when exploring the space-defying first floor, Sam will have to face what's probably the biggest moral conundrum in the game when he encounters a mouth in the wall asking to be fed children. The hungry wall will be limiting Sam's progress until it is fed, since otherwise, Sam won't be able to get the Mars disk needed to open the ground level floor. He has two options: either feed it the rat baby, or stick your arm in the mouth wall and sacrifice his arm, but gaining a loving life companion that, I guess is kinda cute in a weird way. He's even got a little backpack and a hat, and it's easy to imagine that he'd wear that hat and backpack to rat school, and before you know it, he'll be moving out to go to rat college. They do grow so fast. It feels like only just yesterday, he was a little rat baby, crying helpless in a bundle, and now he's moving out on his own into the world. Sam would shed a tear and couldn't feel prouder at everything his little rat baby had accomplished, and now he's going off to college. Oh yeah, and the rat baby can also join your party. Number 5. Landlords and paying rent. On the first floor, you'll find Mr. Henderson's apartment, as he's being attacked by some of the hand monsters that have driven into the building on the crashing bus. He's in a wheelchair, fighting them off with an old war rifle, but he's not able to put them down before one of the hand monsters bursts full of little slimy wiggly hand creatures that jump onto him and then force themselves down his throat. The same way your roommate might force his hand down your throat to make you gag and throw up if you've accidentally eaten a whole bunch of raw chicken. Mr. Henderson is a war veteran, as evidenced by the war medals that you steal, his old war uniform that you also steal, and the stereotypical Vietnam War veteran outfit that video game designers put on characters to let you know they are a veteran. We don't know how a veteran ended up owning an apartment building, but then again, I don't know how anybody ends up owning an apartment building. Maybe that's because I grew up poor. As you explore the apartment, trying to get the basement key, you'll notice that the apartment will slowly transform as the memory of the war overcomes poor Mr. Henderson, as if the slimy hand he swallowed is digging up his trauma from the war from deep inside his stomach, where trauma and painful memories are stored. As you head deeper into the apartment, war-themed monsters will appear carrying rifles and machine guns, and also dressed in ways you'd expect given the context. The walls will transform into the earthen defensive structures of trenches and bunkers. Moving landmines will appear out of the ground, and sandbags will restrict your movement. Each time that Sam goes deeper into the twisted apartment, he'll be stopped by Mr. Henderson, reminding him that he needs to pay him rent. And each time you encounter Mr. Henderson, he will appear increasingly monstrous and will charge you more and more rent. Fun fact, did you know I once used to rent a 2-bedroom apartment for only $800 a month? Once you've made it to the deepest level of the apartment, you'll be chased around by the trench digger. This is the final form of Mr. Henderson's transformation. It's easy to surmise that the trench digger is what built this system of earthen defenses. At this final stage of the apartment, you'll be able to find what you entered in here looking for, the basement key, which will allow Sam to continue his exploration of the building and get to the deepest part of the building. The basement is the opposite of the roof of the building, and therefore the furthest from the visitor. God can't see into basements, so that's why it's where people get freaky. Not all monster transformations in Lookoutside are pulled from someone's past, but in Mr. Henderson's case, we can see the effects of the war trauma on him. Trauma is a real monster that doesn't allow someone to be free from pain, following them around for even years afterwards. We should all try to be mindful and supportive of each other's traumas. No joke here, just wanted to say that people have scars, and that can impact how they operate in the real world. Number 6. Angelic Fred. In one of the rooms in the first floor maze, you'll find a weird painter that appears catatonic with fear. It's Frederick, and he explains that some of his paintings came to life and leapt out of their frames and into reality before spreading out throughout his apartment. He asks you for help dealing with them. Most of the painted versions of Fred will have the appearance of monsters or in some way deformed. There's the Fred that's just a spire of flesh, Fred that bites, the slimy one rips himself into 3, the shy one in the closet, the one in the refrigerator, the hat, and the one I want to talk about, the Angelic Fred. The Angelic Fred is found in the backmost room next to a shotgun. When you speak with him, he tells you to look upon his godly form in awe, and that he has transcended his mortal form. Glorious heavenly music will play as you look at his eye-filled angel wings and colorful appearance. He will ask that you kill the other Freds in exchange for a boon. Speaking to him does feel like being in the presence of a divine entity as you gaze upon his majesty and take in the godly music. But if you refuse his request, he will quickly drop the entire act and admit he is just a painting and his godly scam is all he has. Dropping the act, he will light up a cigarette and start smoking before offering you $400 to take out the other Freds. Thinking about it, you don't see very many images of different gods smoking. I have to admit, pretending to be a god on Earth does seem like a pretty good hustle. I should try that sometime. So today, I'm announcing the founding of the Church of TacoBanana, my very first attempt at starting my own cult. Okay, that's just a joke. Please don't join cults. Well, maybe if they look fun. No. Scratch that. Don't join cults. Number 7. Roach. I've always had a love-hate relationship with roaches. Mostly hate, ever since I once woke up in a filthy apartment with one of them crawling into my mouth back when I was a young, idealistic whippersnapper before starting college. But playing Lookoutside has made me reconsider how I feel about these little turd-colored critters. Lookoutside gives you the opportunity to recruit one of the most original party members I've seen in a game in a while, with the addition of the character Roaches, based on Steve Buscemi. In order to recruit Roaches, you have to find one of these little critters throughout the building and give him a ride back to your apartment. Once back home, you'll have to dig into your inventory and free him into his new home, your home. Over the next few days, be sure to leave food out on the table when you go to bed overnight, feeding the roaches. The next few mornings, they'll make it a point to leave you cute little notes on the ground, expressing their gratitude and growing fondness for you, as thanks for having fed them. Do this enough times and you'll get one of the best surprises ever. A stranger appearing in your bathroom in a trench coat. Don't worry, he's not interested in flashing you and showing you his veiny roach. Once the roaches coalesce and take human form, you can recruit roaches into your party and have them help you out in your quest to collect offerings for the visitor. Roaches will be useful in your journey since they will function as a mage with spells such as Roach Missile, Roach Shield, Acid Arrow, Fireball, and Thunder Roach. In the end, roaches will be a better companion to you than a lot of actual people, making you reconsider who is the real monster. And also, roaches makes fedoras cool again. Tip of the hat, my lady. 8. Teeth apartment. I like teeth. I have teeth, like 20 of them. Use them every day. Have you ever counted how many teeth you have? If you comment how many teeth you have in the comments, and you have the most amount of teeth of anyone that has commented, I'll give you a shout out in the pinned comment to recognize your bountiful harvest of teeth. It's good to know if in case you ever lose any of them. If you don't keep track of your teeth, how will you know if one went missing? I floss sometimes. I'm a fancy boy like that. One of the earlier apartments Sam will get access to is the teeth apartment. First, you'll find the father of the family, Clint, has bursted out of the apartment, knocking down the previously locked door. He has an affliction that is spreading, turning more and more of him into teeth. He was recently bit by his baby that had been exposed to the mutating glow of the visitor. I once had a roommate that didn't have any teeth once. I kicked him out, not because of the teeth thing, but because he was rude, messy, and kept breaking my ceramic dishes on the stairs. As you explore the teeth apartment, you'll find more and more of the man's family. His older son, Joe, will be found in the bathroom. He'll mention it was the baby that first had the teeth affliction and bit everyone else in the family. As the conversation with the older son continues, he'll progress brushing his teeth, taking a long time since he now has so many teeth, until eventually turning around and showing you the full effects of this toothy curse. He describes having to brush 3 rows of teeth and how it takes forever, and that yesterday his mouth grew into his eye socket. If you fight Joe, you'll see the mouth and teeth continue to spread, impacting his ability to speak and think. Recruiting Joe is also an option if you've collected the teddy bear from the next room over. In the room with the teddy bear, you'll encounter Madison, the crying mother of the family. When she sees you, she'll offer to nurse you. She'll open her shirt to reveal, well, just look. It's kinda hard to describe. Like everyone else in her family, she has been afflicted with teeth. A sweet little moment can occur with you and the youngest of the family, little Ben. Even though he has just mutated, he's still just a little boy and he wants to play with his army men one last time. He's also rooted to the floor and can't move. If you have compassion for the little boy, you can sit down with him and give the little boy one last fun moment playing with the army men, the tank, and the helicopter. Sam and little Ben will play out various scenarios as the little army soldiers stage a rescue and have to contend with the tank and the helicopter. After playing with him, he'll give you a piece of jewelry as his way of showing appreciation for you playing with him. All in all, it's a pretty sweet encounter with an innocent boy who's been caught up in all the chaos of the visitor's effect on Earth. The last encounter in the teeth apartment will be with the teeth baby called Baby Teeth. This creature is what has become of the infant that was exposed to the visitor in her crib and then bit everyone else in the family. The poor little child has grown to many times her original size and is now moving around in the open pit in the apartment. Now she's an aggressive and tortured monster covered in teeth. She'll approach and attack Sam as he's leaving the room, but it's pretty easy to avoid her. If you do fight her, you'll be able to get the Jawbone Club, which is a pretty decent weapon in the early game. Number 9. Playing video games. Playing video games is a horrible hobby for losers and nerds. If you like video games, well, go outside. Okay, I hope it's obvious that's a joke. If you can't tell, I'm quite a fan of the video games. Playing Nintendo is one of the ways I learned English, which is why I speak the words so good. In Lookoutside, gaming is an entertaining way to level up, increase morale, and even unlock some skills. Sam will start with a small selection of video games and can find some more throughout the building. It's possible that he may be visited by the traveling video game merchant who is equipped with a very gnarly samurai sword. He's awkward and bad with social pleasantries, but then again, so are we. As Sam repeatedly plays the same game again and again, we learn about how he is learning about the game, its mechanics, progressing, and/or moving through the game's story. For me, the standout game was the Princess Massacre game, which is in the style of traditional Final Fantasy JRPGs, fully complete with a plot, a twist, an airship, a colorful cast of characters, and a dramatic showdown at the end with the final boss with all the characters you've encountered in the story. Princess Massacre even has a full cast of characters that you can name along with their own portrait art. The reward for playing through this long game is the Meteor Strike skill that's featured throughout the story of the game. You can't use it since it requires 999 stamina, but you do get a hefty boost of 400 XP for completing the game. Beating Princess Massacre takes about 12 play sessions, each being about 2 hours long, meaning it takes longer to beat Princess Massacre than it actually takes to beat the game Lookoutside. To get the Princess Massacre game, you will need to be visited by the aforementioned merchant and then buy the most expensive game from him. After handing it over to you, he realizes his mistake. He has sold you his most prized possession. In an attempt to get it back, he offers you his prized blade if you return the game to him. You'll have to refuse the offer of the sword to keep the game. The other games Sam will have access to will be shorter but also offer skills and XP, along with an entertaining narrative to read through. Myrmidon is the story of some ant soldiers going behind enemy lines to rescue some POWs. Wizard Hell is a game about building a circle of hell to eternally torment wizards. Some games, like the Mario Kart clone, can be played socially and the other members of your party will join in. So playing video games in Lookoutside is an entertaining and beneficial side activity you can use to get XP, skills, and increase your party's morale, in addition to giving you more motivation to search the building to find more game cartridges. 10. The Astronomers. In the colorful cast of characters and monsters you'll meet throughout Lookoutside, there is only one group of people that seem to have any advance warning about the visitor or any insight about what is going on, and that's the Astronomers that you'll meet across the apartment building. Sybil, their original leader, is now the person that allows you to save your game in the apartment, peering at you through the hole in the wall. She was the original human to have detected the visitor, and possibly the cause of why the Earth caught the visitor's attention and was attracted to the Earth. She originally lived in apartment 13, which is now covered in the fleshy plant growth, but has taken up residence in apartment 35 now, next door to Sam, for reasons unknown. We don't learn much about the mysterious Sybil in the no going back ending, where Sam never confronts the visitor, but rather waits him out for the 15 days that the game takes place in. We find that after the visitor leaves, Sybil's front door is open, but she's nowhere to be seen. There's a large hole in one of the walls of her apartment, suggesting that maybe she was taken away by the visitor when it left our galactic vicinity. The other 4 astronomers will serve as guides for Sam in his journey. They will detail the recent history of the discovery of the visitor, what little they know about him, the preparations they took for him, but most importantly, guiding Sam to gather the 4 offerings they need to make to the visitor to have a successful ritual and commune with the visitor. At the very end of the game, the 4 astronomers will be found on the roof with the offerings that Sam prepared for the astro visitor. All the offerings are variants on representations of this eldritch horror, a picture of him, a written description, a painting, and a video recording. The ending of the game will depend on the success of the ritual, if the offerings presented are the correct ones. If Sam gets them right, he'll have an encounter with the Exalted Four, but we'll be talking more about that later. 11. Jeanne's predicament. One of the aspects that I liked of Lookoutside is that the game doesn't make a clear differentiation when approaching a mutated creature if it's hostile or not, as if making the statement that you can't judge something by its appearance. An example of that is the sweet Jeanne, whom you meet in her apartment. The first time you meet her, she is hiding her mutations underneath her jacket, and she asks for your help retrieving her laundry from the laundromat on the ground floor. Over the next few visits with her, she will mention how her mutations are progressing, and she is increasingly feeling alien in her own body. All the while, she remains nice and sympathetic. Eventually, her mutations will progress to the point where she loses control of them, and her newly sprouted tentacles spread out across her apartment. Jeanne explains that she's lost control of her tentacles, and she can feel them as they reach out to her neighbors and harm them, ripping them apart and rending their flesh. When you fight the other tentacles, you can see them actively tearing people apart as they are in obvious horror and pain. This means Jeanne can actively feel the tentacles tearing her neighbors apart that she's previously met and cared for. She doesn't want to be responsible for anything bad happening to anyone, and she asks you to do what you have to do to stop her tentacles, even if it means killing her. At this point, Sam will have to make a choice. Does he take the easy way out and kill the Hydra, which will kill Jeanne and all of the tentacles, or does he seek out another way? The more difficult but kinder method of ending Jeanne's torment is to fight and kill all of the other tentacles, but not harming her. The tentacles might or might not put up too much of a challenge, depending on your level and equipment. Once Sam defeats the other tentacles and ends their killing spree, Jeanne tells you that she doesn't know how to thank you, that you saved her from hell. Something about Jeanne's kindness always stuck with me. She shows true bravery and empathy in the face of unknown body horror. 12. Mutt's Fish and Chips. A fish and chip store where you will find neither fish nor chips. Mutt is an odd little fellow that is always seen to be hiding behind the counter. He will have a range of unique and powerful items that he is selling, and a colorful cast of non-threatening monsters taking refuge in his cozy establishment. If you ask Mutt for chips, he will tell you that they are all out. If you ask him why the cafe is called Mutt's Fish and Chips, he will answer that they were out of signs and add nothing more. He'll have a selection of unique items, weapons, and armors on sale for Sam, with the caveat that anytime you buy something, everything else goes up in price. Towards the end of the game, he does sell a coffee pot. I still don't understand how Sam doesn't have one. The establishment will be filled with a range of monsters that seem to have preserved some of their humanity and sanity. One of 2 such locations in the building, with the other being in the basement. apartment. Before the visitor appeared, this place was a cafe and meeting spot for the residents. Some of them continue to show up in spite of their transformations. Two of them will explain the various status effects in the game. One of them will trade you rare items in exchange for cassette tapes. Another one of them will explain that in spite of having 40 eyes, he can't see shit and constantly gets motion sickness. And another one of the patrons is just a group of organs without skin. Visiting Mutt's Fish and Chips isn't required to beat the game, but it's a colorful spot with some interesting characters that you'll definitely want to visit once you've reached the ground floor. 13. Taxidermy Apartment. As you explore the building, you'll eventually find a tall, still, dark figure in the hallways as you realize one of the apartment doors on the 3rd floor has opened. Entering the apartment, Sam will learn that it is filled with taxidermied animals, all sorts of exotic animals. Taxidermied animals are the creepiest form of home decoration. Well, maybe not as creepy as taxidermied humans, but you get the point. Also, how does someone afford to go hunting all these exotic animals and live in a modest apartment? I mean, so much of the floor space is dedicated to the taxidermied animals. What do you do when guests come over? Tell them to hang their coats on the moose antlers? The monsters in this apartment are all needled or scissored themed, staying thematically consistent, and some of them do present quite a threat, having pretty strong attacks. As you move around the apartment, you might notice the big taxidermy thing move around when you're not looking. Hard to tell if it's being moved or if it's moving by itself. In one of the apartment rooms, you'll find a shrunken head, which fits neatly in the skin-covered door in the next room over. Push it in to reveal a more horrifying part of this apartment. Going past the skin-covered door reveals another more unsettling part of the taxidermied apartment, where the floor, furniture, and walls all appear to be covered in flayed skin. Makes you wonder how you come about collecting so much skin. The monsters in this area have the appearance of failed Frankenstein experiments, resembling botched taxidermy jobs combining different animals that have come to life. You have to ask if these things want to be alive or animated, or if their existence is simply an exercise in misery, given how disfigured they are. One reason to venture into the skin-covered part of the building is to get the patchwork armor set, which has pretty decent stats for the mid-game, assuming you're okay wearing equipment made of skin. Upon returning to the normal part of the apartment, you'll find one last surprise for you. The big taxidermy thing that had been moving around is animated and will rush you as soon as it sees you. Now this guy is trouble. He has a lot of HP, can deal out a lot of damage for the mid-game. As you fight him, he'll become more and more covered in strings, eventually being fully covered in this important tool for taxidermy. In his final form, called suture wire, he is covered head to toe in string, with various sharp tools outlining him and being able to deal heavy damage to Sam and his party. There's no real reward for fighting him, but getting the patchwork set is worth the trouble. Take down the suture wire, and Sam and the party will get a decent bit of XP, and they are now able to make it back to the 3rd floor hallway and continue their exploration of the apartment. Number 14. Stargazer's apartment. Edwin was an avid collector of telescopes and other optical equipment. He lived next door to Sam on the 3rd floor. Edwin was like anyone else in the apartment building until the day he observed the visitor through his telescopes a few months before the events of the game. From that day forward, he would gradually lose himself as he started to mutate and change. Sam will encounter Edwin in the form of Stargazer once he finds Edwin's apartment door open with a sign that says, "Help you." Of course, nothing suspicious about that. Inside, Sam will find an abandoned apartment with a telescope pointed out of the window. The telescope is creating an image on the floor, but it's hard to see with the lights on. Throughout the apartment, Sam will find notes detailing Edwin's degradation and fading sanity. Sam will also find out what happened to some of the other tenants of the building that stopped by to check on Edwin after he started his transformation. As Sam moves around the apartment, he might notice some doors open and shut by themselves. In order to have an encounter with Stargazer, the creature that Edwin had become, Sam will have to turn off the lights at the very entrance of the apartment. Afterwards, Stargazer will be visible in his true form. Turning off the lights also shows a modified apartment that appears to have transformed in the darkness, that also has another nasty secret in store for Sam. In order to reach the telescope to transpose the image of the visitor to the negative plate, you have to turn off the lights and then retrace your steps back to the room with the telescope. But once the lights are off and the apartment changes, holes in the floor appear, forcing Sam to enter this door. Once Sam crosses the door's threshold with the lights off, he is transported to another version of the apartment filled with pulsating red organs and mounds of flesh. These entire rooms are filled with red slime and gore. In this flesh realm, Sam will have a few tough encounters with neighbors that have been stuck here, like confusion and stretch face, who react violently to seeing Sam. Sam will have to traverse several of these disgusting and off-putting carnal dwellings in order to make it to the room with the telescope. Finally reaching his destination, Sam will be able to transpose the image of the visitor, which he will need as an offering to the visitor during the final ritual of the game. 15. Phillippe the Moth. I don't know why I find this little guy to be one of my favorite encounters in the game. In the basement, Sam will find a part of the building completely covered in mind-controlling fungus. Papineau will mention that he's lost a lot of friends and co-workers down here, and as you go around, you'll be able to encounter and free several of them. Once released, these apparent humans who have somehow survived will offer services that are impossible to obtain. The blacksmith will offer to craft weapons, but none of the components exist in the game. The carpenter will offer to upgrade your apartment if you collect materials not available, and the one with the top hat will offer to play cards with you, but there aren't any to collect in the building. All this serves to let the player know not to trust their senses in the fungal lair. Another character that the player can encounter is the lovable moth Phillippe. When you find him, he immediately calls you friend, and once freed, he says that he needs to be a strong moth in order to save his friends, showing that this large moth has an even larger heart. He offers to join your party, saying that he's the strongest moth around, at least twice as strong as any other moth. And moths are creatures of their word, so we can trust him. If you ask him how he ended up here, he tells you the truth. He saw a light and couldn't resist himself. It's a moth thing. You wouldn't understand. If you let him join your party, he tells you how happy he is to join your party and make friends. All Phillippe apparently wants is to make friends. He is truly a noble creature. Look at those large, adorable red eyes. But all is not well. If you make it to the deepest part of the fungal lair, you'll find the spore mother, surrounded by poor victims that she has lured to her lair with her fungal ability to infect minds and create illusions. That's when you learn the tragic truth, the saddest moment in Lookoutside. The spore mother has infected your dear friend Phillippe and taken over his mind, twisting his love and loyalty to you against your party, even making him fight you, turning friends against friends, weaponizing the moth's pure love for you. During the fight, the spore mother makes Phillippe pretend that he was in on it, that he was part of the charade, but Sam is able to see through it. He knows that the moth's heart is pure and noble and has been twisted by this foul fungal creature. The spore mother makes Phillippe try to trick Sam into thinking that it was all a ruse, that there was no lovable moth, that he was just a mushroom like everything else in this room. But Sam is resolute. He doesn't lose faith in his friends. He knows the truth in his heart of hearts, and he knows how to identify a giant bipedal moth, and he holds on to the belief that Phillippe is real. Their love was too true, too real, and their bonds of friendship will not be destroyed by the spore mother. Sam says that Phillippe was his only friend, and that they will find a way to free him from the Spore Mother's spell. In the end, the effects of the Spore Mother were too powerful, and Sam is forced to kill his dear friend. After the fight, with great grief, Sam collects the remains of the precious moth and swears to find a way to revive him. They say, to this day, Sam is still trying to find a way to reunite with his dear precious Phillippe, tears rolling down his cheek. Love always finds a way. 16. Shadow. During your comings and going in the apartment building, you'll often run into a tall and mysterious figure, Shadow. Shadow appears as a tall person in a black robe while holding a white mask near where his chest would be. Shadow doesn't speak, but he also doesn't appear to be hostile. In one of your first interactions with him, you will have a chance to give him some food, which establishes a sort of friendly relationship with him. After a few more encounters, he might show up in your bedroom. In your bedroom, he will open up his dark robes and entice you to enter and embrace him. Sam feels an unnatural call and desire to enter the darkness, but if you do that, that will be the end of Sam. Instead, you can establish firm boundaries and ask him to respect your room. After that, he'll hang out in the kitchen with the rest of the party members, and occasionally gift you items that you can use for crafting. We don't really learn much more about his story, nature, or intent. We can only communicate with him by observing how he moves his mask around, so Shadow will remain mysterious for the entire game. But I kinda think that's his appeal. He's like a lost puppy looking for a friend during the end of the world. We don't need to know what's underneath the mask or the robes to appreciate him and his company. Once in your apartment, he does appear happy to be there, so I say, "Hey Shadow, I see you and I appreciate you, you tall, mysterious shadow entity." Okay, for the last items on this list, we will be talking about different aspects of the endgame. So serious endgame spoiler warnings from here on out for several different possible endings of Lookoutside. 17. The Rooftop Ritual. I've always wanted to be invited to esoteric religious rituals, but that's never happened. Okay, time to talk about the endgame. The central puzzle or quest of the game is to prepare the astronomers for the Rooftop Ritual, where they will try to get the attention of the visitor. One of the astronomers will tell you that they need 4 representations of the cosmic phenomenon, which are a challenge to get since it's harmful to view any representation of it. Sam will have to collect a video recording of the visitor through the CCTV system, a photograph, a written manuscript, and a painting of this foreign celestial phenomenon. Once Sam has all 4 offerings, he can give them to the astronomers, who will finally give him a key to the roof, where Sam will at long last be able to look outside. With some hesitation, Sam opens the rooftop door that leads to the outside. It takes a moment for his eyes to adjust to the brightness outside. He's been indoors for weeks now, deprived of natural light. As his eyes adapt to the brightness of the sun, Sam will get a proper glimpse of what has become of Earth. As he looks out to the horizon, he sees the state of his city. Now, there is no doubt, there will be no going back for humanity. The world has been destroyed. The adventure and struggles that have played out in Sam's apartment building has been happening millions upon millions of times across the globe, as a part of humanity has been turned into monsters that will hunt the remaining humans that haven't turned. There will be no going back for the planet. Sam makes his way to where the astronomers are waiting for him, and the ritual begins, the outcome of which will depend on what offerings Sam gave the astronomers, and if they are the correct ones. It is very possible to give them the incorrect offerings and fail the ritual, in which case Sam will make it back to his apartment. Momentarily relieved, he sees himself in the mirror and realizes that he hasn't mutated, only to have his relief shattered when he starts to see the transformation. He would try to keep himself calm and talk himself through it, but in the end, he can't deny he is now one of the transformed monsters he has been fighting this entire time. 18. Cinnamon, otherwise known as cinnamon. One of the earliest and most important items Sam will collect in his adventure is a sweet little guinea pig who is happily oblivious to the chaos around it. Oh, if I could be so lucky and be a wee little rodent, happily oblivious to the world burning around me. The guinea pig is a key item since you'll need it for the tape recording offering. Sam will use the guinea pig to find which channel to record by placing it in front of the security TV and switching channels until the guinea pig mutates, indicating which of the security feeds Sam needs to record to get footage of the visitor. The footage can then be given to the astronomers to use as an offering in the final ritual at the end of the game. A more interesting use of the tiny rodent is if you offer 3 correct offerings to the astronomer and then the guinea pig. The astronomer will express some surprise and hesitation that the rodent is an appropriate offering, but he just rolls with it. Man, these astronomers could be a bit more picky about who they trust. Anyways, you make it to the rooftop ritual we just talked about. The astronomers, who by the way are called cultists in the game files for some reason, make their offerings to the visitor when something goes horribly wrong. The adorable guinea pig, Cinnamon, starts to mutate and become something horrifying, nasty, and beyond human comprehension. He takes his final form as Cinnamon. He will ascend and absorb the astronomers, and a final boss fight initiates. Sam will have to use every resource and weapon at his disposal to fight the rodent god, and if he prevails, we get to see a glimpse of the future of humanity under the paw of this rodent messiah. We learned that we didn't defeat Cinnamon, but rather we only delayed him. He keeps growing and growing, becoming a massive creature that grows to gargantuan proportions. The creature keeps growing and eating, covering the nearby buildings in rat flesh. Towers of rat meat can be seen in the horizon as the rat god spreads out, covering the landscape, ingesting everything into himself. Humanity and Earth are no more. There is only Cinnamon. The moon is devoured, and darkness sets on mankind. The era of the rat has started. The end. Number 19. The Exalted Four. If Sam gave the astronomers the 4 correct offerings, the ritual will be successful and the gaze of the visitor will be focused on you and the astronomers. The form of the 4 astronomers will be distorted as it appears they are being absorbed into a titanic and colossal eye of the visitor above them. The astronomer's new form will enter combat with Sam as they are pulled into the behemoth. Once Sam and his party have inflicted enough damage, the astronomers are pulled into a new form called the Chaos Quartet, an amalgamation of the 4 astronomers twisted into a new form by the celestial entity. After the first phase of combat, the astronomers again morph into a new form as the party finds themselves standing in a blinding void of bright light. Disoriented, all they can see is the form of the Exalted Four in front of them. An infinity symbol with 4 colors representing the 4 astronomers that have merged into a single new entity, a single form. The colors corresponding to the different elements: water, earth, yellow, and fire. And here begins the final encounter of Lookoutside. The astronomers are able to break through and send Sam one last message before they lose themselves into their new forms in harmony with the visitor. They warn you that you cannot defeat them in their new form. They ask you to run away for your own safety, but first, you will have a chance to ask them anything. This will be humanity's only chance to try to understand the doom that has befallen them and their planet. We learn that the Hellstar felt called to Earth by being observed by humanity. It came to Earth to investigate the source of the gaze. The visitor describes itself as a blind man, groping in the dark, but having a corrosive touch. Sam eventually asks how humanity may be saved, only to sadly learn that it is already too late for that. At this point, only the remains of humanity can be salvaged. This is the final moment of history. The last bit of control that the astronomers had slips away, and the fight with the Exalted Four begins. The Exalted Four will cycle which color eye is dominant and unleash an attack corresponding to it. All the while, echoes of the last bit of the Astronomers' humanity will echo out, even at one point bellowing out, "I can help," and healing Sam and the party as a last-ditch effort to help humanity. But after much struggle and fighting, the Exalted Four are defeated, and it fades away, leaving Sam floating in space, looking up at the immeasurably large visitor. It is time for his audience with the extrasolar alien deity. Before discussing the last item on our list, let's take a look at some honorable mentions that didn't make the final version of the script. Demonic Cars, The Pipe Woman, Tickman, Big Eye, Kissing Lyle, Robbing Your Neighbors Blind, Juicebox, The Man Who Locked Himself in the Bathroom Stall, Brushing Your Teeth, Hat Monster, 120 giant monsters ruling the earth. And now for the last item on our list for today, number 20, The Visitor. The extrasolar cosmic phenomenon, central mystery to the entire journey in Lookoutside. Sam will finally get a glimpse of this entity after defeating the Exalted Four and accepting the opportunity to gaze upon that which doomed Earth and humanity. Sam will feel weightlessness as he is pulled up towards the heaven for his audience with his alien god. The visitor will gaze upon Sam with a sense of curiosity and almost naivete, for the visitor is not used to interacting with creatures such as Sam and humans. We are a novelty to him. Other sentient beings, such as humans, are just as alien to the visitor as the visitor is to us. The visitor will tear Sam apart as if to look at what is inside and then put him back together, like a curious toddler experimenting with a new toy. Then, one by one, the visitor will take the 4 offerings that Sam has on him and ask what they are. What is their purpose? The visitor appears confused at the concept of humans, as if he had never experienced another sentient being. Eventually, it is able to understand that Sam is a separate entity from him. Sam explains that the visitor is hurting them. Humanity is being hurt. The cosmic god seems surprised and apologizes as if he were unaware of the mass chaos and violence that he had caused. Understanding this and the pain that he has inflicted, the visitor realizes that he should leave the solar system, mentioning that he had never seen anything like humans before. But before leaving, the cosmic phenomenon asks Sam one question. Does Sam truly wish to gaze upon what he is? The visitor then plants a vivid image in Sam's mind. Sam feels a sense of vertigo as the immensity of the body of the visitor enters his mind. Sam becomes overwhelmed with the power of these emotions and images. Sam gets to experience the visitor's proprioception, its subjective experience of itself, of its own body. Sam's mind shifts in response to absorb the totality of the experience. His mind frays at the edges and then starts to collapse and crumble as the scale of the experience grows and expands to scales that Sam could not comprehend. He had never experienced something at this vast of a scale. Space and time start to lose meaning. Sam's mind had become entirely repurposed just to process this image. His mind is full of it, but it keeps on drinking the ever-expanding image. Every nerve in Sam's body is overcome with this experience. Synapses form and reform to accommodate the overwhelming knowledge, and Sam's brain cells implode as he starts to take in the true nature of the visitor. And with that, dear viewer, we conclude today's video on 20 things in Lookoutside. As per usual, thank you very much for spending this time with me and watching the video all the way to this end. If you'd like to make me feel validated for the time I put into this, considering doing all those regular YouTube things, like comment, subscribe, and all that. But if anything, I am just grateful that you listened to me. Take care, be well, remember to go outside sometimes, and until next time, this is John from TacoBanana, signing off. Later. Oh my god. Oh, sorry. Oh, I shouldn't have had a drink before this.